Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Morgan Malnicki, Director of Social Media and Marketing at Sentinel Media Company, and today I am joined by my co-creator of Experience Leadership, our inaugural event that happened last Wednesday, March 26th, and we're here to debrief. Welcome, Kari Puleo.
Thank you so much for having me today, Morgan. It feels like we've been separated for a week because we were so on each other's hip for almost like a year creating this, and now
we've had a brief breakup.
Yes, we had a little brief breakup, and although we did text pretty frequently throughout the week.
Yeah, so we're here to debrief, and thank you so much for coming on. As we know, this was a co-branded event with Sentinel Media Company and the Greater Utica Chamber of Commerce, initially brought to us by Jen over at Standard Insulating Heating and Cooling, sorry. But do you want to talk about, how are you feeling after being able to take a deep breath?
Yeah, I think, during the event, I was completely in awe. I actually did take a few minutes a couple times during the day just to step back and watch people. I think one of the photographs, there's a photograph of just two ladies just smiling with this big, huge smile and laughing. And knowing that we partnered together to create something just is such a overwhelming feeling that it's kind of taken a while to sit in to be like, we actually pulled this off and pulled it off in a big way. Yeah, I'm a little emotional about it. I am an emotional speaker. I do get a little, but it was really kind of a labor of love. You and I poured so much time, energy, thought. We really tried to think down to the granular level of making women feel really fantastic for a day, and seeing messages pour in even on Sunday. I know we got tagged in a social media post that women were still feeling that energy lasting through the weekend, and I think creating something like that is just really special. And to do it with you, a friend, and somebody that I enjoy working with is even better.
Oh, I'm going to make you cry. And actually, I was talking with my sister yesterday, and she had a friend reach out. They were going back and forth, and she actually said, she goes, I don't know if it's my leadership summit coming out, because she was using parts that inspired her to respond to the message, and said those exact words. For those that weren't there or weren't familiar, this was a sold out event. We sold out in 6 days, which is amazing. 330 local women that wanted to come and inspire others and feel that empowerment, which we obviously certainly felt in the room on that day. I guess what I know what Jen brought it to us, and Jen from Standard Insulating said, if anyone's going to do this in our area, it's going to be you too. What inspired you to want to say yes to taking on such a big event?
I kind of felt the need for it. And I always feel like Utica gets left behind in some major initiatives. There are events like this that happen in Syracuse and Albany, and I know a lot of our local women travel to them. And I feel like women here deserve just as much as things that happen in cities with a little bit larger population. I think part of the Utica, Rome, Mohawk Valley specialty is that we are so warm and caring, and women care about each other and want to lift each other up. And so to have this here was extremely important and special. Watching people reconnect with old friends, but also meet new contacts and connections is really cool too.
And I think going off of, again, if people weren't at the event, again, this is your official invitation for next year to stop back, to come to the event. But it was a room full of women, obviously, that were so empowered and excited to be there. But we had breakout speakers. We had a keynote. We had a panel of speakers. We had a build your own bouquet bar from Turning Stone. We did a step and repeat wall with balloons from Take Heart Design. And thank you so much to Megan for partnering with us for that. Angela at Be Life Art, she did designs in the bathroom. We really touched on every aspect, and hoped that people left with so excited for more and what's to come. I guess, what was your favorite part or vendor or aspect of the event that you really enjoyed?
So when I was kind of standing by the registration area at one point, I had a couple of women come up and say, we have never been more excited to be in traffic, sit at a stoplight on Genesee Street, watching women walk in kind of bright spring clothes and just really excited about the day. Like, who's excited to be sitting in traffic? And the fact that we created a vibe such as that, and then to be walked in and handed a gift bag personally from Melissa Lennon or her staff. Shout out to Melissa for seeing our vision and jumping on and being our presenting sponsor right away. It really just made people excited for the day and kind of set that tone of we're all here to support each other. We're all here. And it was really an uplifting day. Some people told me, I skipped a panel just because I was having such great conversations with a group of women that I felt like I needed to give time to that conversation. And they went and grabbed a drink at the bar. And I said, that's okay.
Yeah, that's
this day is created for you. And if you miss one of the sessions to create something else that's going to benefit you personally or your business connections, go ahead and do that. That's why we're at a venue that allows for so many different options between the keynote, the panel, the breakouts, and all the fun that we sprinkled in between.
I was getting so many people coming up to me and thanking me, people I'd never met, and genuinely just tapped me on the shoulder and just said, I wanted to just say thank you. And that was so special to hear. And I think that was my magic moment, knowing that so many people in the room were just so happy to be in something like this or be a part of it. I mean, you and I both know we had so many people texting us how do I get a ticket? And this event had been sold out.
Yeah.
With the event selling out in 6 days, why do you think that resonated so much with women locally, having it sell out so quickly? And then obviously I also had people that I didn't even hear about it. Well, after the 6 days, we didn't necessarily need to advertise anymore because we were sold out.
Yeah. So I think part of it was, we sold a lot of tables. SUNY Poly purchased 2 tables for their students. Hamilton College purchased a table for their students. We had companies buying tables for women that may not traditionally be able to attend, and they actually outreach to their partners or people they work with their community and filled those tables up with a variety of different women. And I think that really kind of showed us the need in the community, not only from the business side, from the banks that attend these kind of large events and typically purchase tables, but also smaller subsets of groups of women that work together purchasing a table. So you kind of saw, the need for businesses to create that ladder of leadership for women within their company and creating a space and allowing them to do so. But then you saw, additionally, individual women who bought individual tickets who need it in their life, right? That kind of uplifting message, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur and you have a small business, Universal Bookkeeper, right? They were one of our sponsors and they brought a team of all of their women, right? What a better way to take a break and empower your women in leadership positions within your company.
Well, and Lennon's, our presenting sponsor, actually closed the entire day because they brought almost all of their whole team is women. So that was really special. And obviously how important it was to Melissa to have her team there, not only being presenting sponsor, but also closing the store for the day. The empowerment wall. It was such a huge hit. Was there any, or what, I guess, if you had a chance to look at it, were there any notes or special messages that stuck out to you?
So I did read this last week when we kind of unpacked the office. And I actually came in on Monday morning and you guys picked it up on Friday. And I was like, oh man, I wanted to spend more time with it. But, there was
We're
some
not taking
really,
it down. It's here. You can
it's here. There's really some great messages on there. People were bold in the things that they wrote. It was an empowerment wall of writing letter to your future self, advice that you wish you'd been given now. And there was a lot of really cool things on there, take the risk, be authentically you. And I know some of these things are cliche and you can kind of read them anywhere, but just to kind of see that and hear it resonate. And there were some things that were a little bit more personal on there too. One of the things that was written on there, and this is an adult podcast, but somebody wrote be more discriminatory of who you had sex with. Now, this was a room that had lots of women in college and may not think long term, but that's a hard message to say, especially in a business setting, but it's important, especially, I'm, a little bit more further along in my life and my career than you. And, it is important for people to hear these kind of messages. It was really just kind of empowering to see people being bold and saying the things that need to be said, even if they're the hard things, right?
And the prompt was to share a message that would inspire, you would give to your younger self, or that you're willing to share with someone else that might need to hear it.
Yeah.
I also loved the future is female. I know that's really like cliche, but it was in all capital letters and just stuck out to me. So I thought that was obviously just really important to hear and like see again that so many people have the same vision as you.
Yeah. And I think we're really lucky because, New York State is one of the states that actually empowers women a little bit more. There was just a report that came out last week that showed like a spectrum of states across the country and women who have more opportunities than others. And New York actually is rated fairly high. So we're lucky to be here. Different states and different countries, women don't have that opportunity. And knowing that we're from a very diverse community here, a lot of women may not see that where they're originally from. So to give them that message, which maybe you or I grow up in a household or a community where we kind of hear that all the time, that's not the same for all of the women who maybe have landed here from other countries, or their parents came here from other countries and they were born here, but their parents are still kind of rooted in their home country. So, and we did have a very diverse crowd. So I think that is really important to say because, you think back not that long ago when I was born, I could not open a business in my own name. I would have to have a man sign off on that. And like that's in my lifetime. So to see these changes over time and recognize how far things have come. And, I do think that we do have a lot of opportunities here. And I think women can achieve just as much as men. But there's also things that we struggle with that are different, just innately based on, gender roles, right? So we kind of carry the heavy load of, okay, I've got to plan the birthday party next week. I've got to make an appointment for the dog. Where are we going on vacation? Is our Christmas fund up to date to plan for Christmas for our kids?
What are we having for dinner?
What are we having for dinner? Like it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And some of the messages that resonated, and this is something that I find in my life too. Our keynote speaker, Holly, she kind of touched upon, and I know I'm going off a little off topic here.
No, you're answering all my questions.
But Holly touched upon like pick 2 or 3 things you want to do really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of see that in my own life. When I try to juggle 7 or 8 things, I can accomplish them, but they may not all be the best that I know I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But when I pick, 3 or 4 things to really focus on and give my priority to, then I feel better inside. My work product is better. My family life around me, like the circle who supports me, I'm a much nicer and gentler person to them because I'm not struggling under so many weights and demands and deadlines too. So it really is important.
No, absolutely. And I think that I know Holly's message resonated with so many in the room, and actually like even just me, I know this is like a branch off of what she was kind of talking about, but I have a lot of seniors in college that will call me and just want to brainstorm about like they're in marketing and hey, what's next for me? And literally what I tell all of them before I even heard from Holly was there's so many different branches of marketing. Find something that you want to be great in. Do you want to be a photographer? Yeah. Do you want to do websites? Do you want to do back on work? There's so many aspects, like be great in one of them. So it kind of like confirmed when Holly was speaking. I was like, that's exactly what I tell in a different sense, but similar idea.
Yeah. And, that was one message, but she had so many other messages that were really, really poignant as well. I think in this day and age, it's so easy for people to, talk catty, talk behind people's back, and really kind of those soft skills and lessons. I'm still scared of my parents to this day. Like I don't ever have to worry about the police. I'm way more, worried about disappointing my parents. And
did your mom also tell you that she would leave you at the police station overnight so you could think about it?
My mom would definitely do that 100%. Really, my dad kind of scares, I'm still, constantly seeking, Italian family.
Of course.
You want to make sure that you make your parents proud. But but it's you see, especially on social media, and the ability to have conversations and be anonymous,
right?
And it always, comes full circle. So being, kind of responsible to your manager and never talking bad about situations and being able to go and have those direct conversations will lead you to a better place of further success, because you'll learn, how either why you're not advancing and what you're doing wrong, or how to be course corrected, or maybe why you weren't chosen for something and a skill set that you may need to develop. I think it's just so important to really just be honest and direct with somebody rather than talk about them behind their back, and how that comes around in career circles. We are a sort of small town, and, talking about one of our breakout speakers, building your brand.
Yep.
That becomes part of your brand. If you're going to be somebody who's catty and backstabbing, every employer in town is going to know that. So, there was a lot of messages that kind of carried through various speakers and various presenters throughout the day. So hopefully our, people who needed those lessons learned them.
And we certainly, I know you touched on it, but we tried to make this event as inclusive in the community as possible. Obviously, we have a very diverse community, making sure that we were touching on every different woman's background, whether it was a college student or one that might not have the opportunity to sit at one of these tables, was there to be able to sit at the table. The businesses, just making sure that we were as diverse as possible. I think we really touched on that both as speakers and actual attendees. Obviously, we know that room was electric. How would you describe the vibe during the panel speaker and then moving into the panel?
Yeah, so the panel, I think a lot of people told me that was kind of one of their favorite parts of the day. There was a little bit more audience participation, and it was really nice. We tried to create a panel that comprised of, diverse backgrounds, where they are in their career, what they do as a job, whether they're more seasoned, and from both the mentor and the mentee perspective, really trying to give advice. I think it's hard to, women, it's hard to ask for help. And when you're looking for a mentor, you're asking for somebody to help you along in your career journey. And so to see women who have done that successfully, grown businesses, grown their careers, give advice, I think that was very genuine. And these women are accessible in our community too, right? So they're still there to give you advice beyond that 1 hour that they were on stage, and more than happy to. And I hope to see more of that. One of the things that we've talked about, we even talked about it before the day launched, is what's next. And one of the things that came out of that a lot is, do we need to facilitate, some more mentoring? And we kind of see that coming out in some of the survey results from the event too.
Definitely. And I think, you're spot on with everything you're mentioning. I think the panel was amazing. I think it was super inspiring, and I was getting so many people that were coming up with other ideas along with the panel, which I think is phenomenal. Was there anything that is sticking out to you that you would have changed from this event? And I'm wondering if your answer is the same as mine.
Changed from this event overall, or from that one panel?
Just from overall.
Overall, when we started planning this, we planned it for 150 women. We didn't know exactly how many would attend. And so when we were creating a budget and looking at the venue, we knew that we could double. And we sold out in 6 days, and we did our best to accommodate as many women in that room as we possibly could. We knew it was going to be tight. So things that I would have liked to change, oh gosh, probably just some of the logistical stuffs. We knew we had some challenges with AV and stuff like that,
which we tested beforehand.
We did test beforehand, and unfortunately, best laid plans don't always come to fruition.
Yeah.
And we even had some changing in which mics we were going to use, but changes for the day. I just wish we could have, had more women there, fit more time into the day.
And I think
we kind of grappled with, do we want this to be a whole day or a half day? What does that look like? I kind of felt like a half day is about right, even though it does seem rushed. to take off a whole day also becomes a barrier for women
Correct,
to be
yeah.
able to attend. So
I think my biggest thing was a larger venue. Like Delta was great to us, but I think that we can expand. At one point, I think I called you a couple weeks before. I'm like, do we do a morning session too? Like this is, I mean, our waiting list, over 100 people?
yeah, we were well over 100 on the waiting list, and many people told me they didn't even either know if there was a wait list, they knew it was sold out, so they didn't join the wait list,
Or they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
That was the other thing that people, again, we didn't advertise more afterward because it was sold out, which is, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but
so we definitely preview to those who are listening for next year. We're definitely scouting a couple of additional venues to see what the possibilities are to move to a larger venue, but also try to keep it in a scale that is still intimate, right?
Yep.
Because that's part of being able to have a good time. Is you don't want to be so overwhelmed in a sea that it's just you just give up and you just leave, right? So you have to have that balance. So you and I are taking a little journey next week to a couple of venues to check them out, and hopefully we can accommodate more women and work on some of those things that were unexpected twists, right? You don't know until you know. And we've both been involved in some event planning before, and so we knew some things, but also there were, we offered sponsors to do takeaway items, and we had so many giveaways that it would have been nice to actually do like a branded bag.
Yeah.
But we didn't even know some of those things were going to come through to the last minute. So
Right.
timing to even plan for those and budget wise.
we're still learning.
Yeah, we're still learning, and hopefully people gave us a little bit of grace, but by and large, to hear the reviews still coming in, and it was kind of, somebody said to me recently, early in the week, last week, there's a couple of hot tickets in town, yours, Obama, and the Final Four for Utica University, and to be included in that group, like,
you didn't tell me that. That's awesome.
yeah. So,
No, but
we were in
actually-
the hot tickets with Barack Obama, so to compete with him is pretty tough.
Well, Brock. No, I agree, and I think looking at a venue that will be still be able to keep that connectivity for members or attendees to be able to meet new people, and I think that was a big aspect. I don't think we touched on, but we actually added little hearts, all different colors for the name tags, so that people would be encouraged to collaborate with those that have a similar heart color that they didn't already know. And I did have people coming actually up to me, and I almost forgot, and they're like, "We're similar hearts. Hi, I'm blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" I love that people were actually using that as a I guess a little icebreaker.
Yeah. Just, we wanted to create some fun in the day too, right? Like networking doesn't have to be serious, and it doesn't have to be scary. For some people, going up to somebody they don't know is very intimidating.
Right.
So to have that to lean onto, like, okay, I want to meet some new people, but I'm afraid to just go introduce myself, and they're saying, well, I'm doing the activity that was instructed as part of this event. It seems less scary. So it was, it did what it was meant to do. And I'm just thrilled to we're still seeing people talking about a week later about how great of a time they're having. And we're still getting messages come in.
Yeah.
I just
people
had
are
one
still
yesterday.
posting about it, and like the encouraging messages, and just people that are here's what I got out of it. Like, this is who I met. It was so great connecting with X, Y, and Z. Like, just so many tags, I hate to say, but honestly, it's so nice, so I can make sure that I'm seeing all of the people's reaction and just the positivity around the event. What was something, I guess, how do you feel about leading? What did you get out of leading this whole event?
Yeah. So leading the whole event, it was kind of a mix of, when we sold out this quick, I think one of the things that I said to you is, okay, we sold out. Now we got to bring it, right? So like there was this pressure that we knew that like people were clearly excited because it sold out in 6 days. So coming up with an event that would appeal to the masses, right? To make sure that the younger people in the audience and the more seasoned career professionals both equally learned something and had a good time, balanced with not being boring, not kind of. Sometimes you sit in these kind of events and you're thinking about what else you have on your plate. What am I going to make for dinner? When do I have to go pick up my kids? I think almost every woman there was so deep rooted in the experience that kind of was our measure of success, that we created an event that while they were there at that event, they were wholeheartedly all in. And I think that feeling of creating that was just really exciting. And when we were on stage at one point, I kind of like poked you and I was like, look at all the people. I kind of whispered, look at all the people here and like what we created. And one of the survey comments, and I wish we had done it, but I didn't even have my phone on stage, was just to take a selfie on stage just to see how many people were in the audience.
I
didn't have my phone with me because my outfit didn't have pockets. So I was really
noted
bummed,
for next year.
Next year we do that.
And pockets in the outfit.
Otherwise, I mean, my outfit was so comfortable, so the fact it didn't have pockets was okay. Like, you have to balance, right? You got to give something up. But yeah, that was like just really cool, just standing there and just looking. Sometimes when you're so deep in it, kind of like a wedding, right? Like they say, take that moment and just like have that peaceful moment between the two of you and like kind of look at, the new family you're creating. We created something for this community that people are just like so pumped about and can't wait till next year is really kind of cool. It's just a I don't want to use the word pride. It's really exciting to know that we did something for other people. It wasn't about us and shining the light on us. It was about bringing the community together and shining the light on other women.
Yeah, you're going to make me emotional.
I told you, I'm an emotional crier.
I know, but it really was such a special day, and I don't think if you weren't there, then you wouldn't necessarily get the feeling. And again, this is why I said this is their official invite. Like, keep up. Look out for notifications for next year because maybe it'll sell out in 5 days next year.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to touch on, I know obviously we had such a successful event. Anything that you would want to share that we could possibly bring in for next year, or I guess, what do you think is next? I know we want to do this again. I know that obviously it was so successful, but what if someone asked what's next, what would your answer be?
For next year or in between?
I think for next year.
Okay. So we haven't this is our debrief, everybody who's listening live. Morgan and I have obviously talked a little bit in between, but we really haven't talked about next year beyond knowing that we have to look for a new venue. So I think that there's additional touches that we could add.
And I guess we can even use this, here, let's stop right here. This is your platform for someone to say, here, comment right now. If you have an idea, any of the listeners, if you have an idea that you think we should implement, comment it here. Even this year, we were coming up with ideas oh my gosh, we should do this or this or this, things that we didn't even think about, the mirrors. I thought that was such a fun idea. Those type of things, if you're thinking of anything that would be, hey, this would be a great touch. And when you were speaking earlier about just responses you were getting, I know that I told you, I was I want people to leave this event. That was so insert F-bomb, awesome, amazing, fantastic. And I was leaving the event and someone came up and told me that. And I was like, did Kari tell you to say that to me? And she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that is exactly what I wanted people to leave the event feeling. Right. I'm so empowered. I can't wait to go make more connections. I have more coffee one-on-one scheduled in the next couple of weeks just with people that are like, hey, this was great. I want to connect further. What does that turn into? I don't know. But again, this community is so small. So I think that in itself is so exciting and empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely think that there's, some different things. We were limited with what we could do based on the venue and how many breakout rooms there potentially were. So looking at new spaces and creating more opportunities, whether that's, a panel, more options during those breakout sessions. Maybe there's some speed networking going on. For mentoring opportunities, right? Some speed mentoring opportunities there, or, some of the other little touches that we wanted to do this year that we just ran out of time and money and energy to do. We also wanted to set the bar high enough that it was amazing, but not set the bar so high that next year it's impossible to get over, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely, and working with you, it's really hard to find somebody to work with and bounce ideas off of that you respect enough to be okay, that's a good idea, but we either need to put a pin in it and be realistic, or you were so passionate about the coffee cups. You were so excited. To me, I was
that was my vision.
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
I want the coffee cups.
I thought coffee cups, hey, great, they're cool. But, to let each other really put in our own ideas and where we thought, things really needed to we needed to spend our time, energy, and finances on for
Well,
the
and
event,
that's the other
right?
thing
So there's
too.
that balance, and working. We never got in a fight.
No, we
never,
didn't actually.
No,
No
we
fights.
never we were just totally
If
on
anything,
board
Mike
the whole
probably
time.
wants to kill me for, hi, me again.
But the whole time, we just worked together so seamlessly. So that was incredible too.
And our meetings were like, are you doing that? Am I doing that? Okay, done. Next item. It was very fast and quick, and we figured it out.
And I think, Jen did come up and stand up and say this, but we both have very full-time jobs, fuller than full-time jobs.
Yeah.
We're both very involved in the community. We both, have families that we care about and do things with, and we both love to travel. We were doing all of this while adding this to our plate.
Yeah.
So, the little things that, we know we need to work on, I can live with that.
And I think one other thing to touch on, I know that we know, but we did such a great job with, this was our first event. We worked with literally zero budget until we were sponsoring and finding sponsorships and selling the event and selling it to attendees that obviously we brought Holly in at a limited cost, but speakers are so expensive to bring in these top names. So how do we adjust with finding someone that we know is going to hit so many attendees or affect so many?
Right.
And I think I give us kudos because we really were so mindful of okay, what partnerships can we make? What branding opportunities can we offer to these sponsors that we are, obviously we're not making $1 million on this, but we're being able to put on a successful event, having people leave with such a positive energy and thinking it was the most amazing day, while also being financially responsible, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it is we knew that if we created this, that we could build something better for the future.
Absolutely.
So we knew we needed to execute it to a level that people would believe in us for next year when we would like to bring in, bigger name speakers and, things that have people that have more visibility. But it's hard to sell that when you don't even have a product. So I'm just glad that women gave us, the grace, the
trust,
that they knew we would create something that would be authentic and genuine and people would respond to it and get something out of it, right? It's so hard to create an event that's so appealing to the masses. And I think by and large, we accomplished that from, there were women actually there in high school all the way up to retirees. And I think everybody found something joyful
that
in the day.
Them,
and something that can, actionable item steps. And maybe it's not every speaker. It's so hard to go to I go to, conferences and different things, and it's very hard to resonate at every single level. But I think by and large, maybe there was one speaker that didn't resonate with you, but 3 did, right? So that means we really did a good job of making sure that most of your needs were covered.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for being my co-creator and for coming on to do this debrief. I know we are now officially on Instagram, experience.leadership. So be sure to follow along there for photos and updates and all of the things. And I'm so happy that Sentinel Media got to partner with the Utica Chamber on yet another event. And thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, and I also think that we might even do some little things between near and before next year's Experience Leadership. I think there's some opportunities for us to do some smaller pop-up events, and so join that page to learn more and watch out because I think there's a need for this. Clearly, people were excited, and I don't think that we can go a whole year without another inspiring event. I think you and I have talked about a few little things that we'd like to do together, and people can watch out for those too.
Agreed. Well, cheers to what's next, and thank you again for coming on.
Thanks, Morgan.